Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host John, better known as Dan Ronyak, spelling a fantastic show for you. A new balance patch. Is the Condi Meta killing diversity? And we will tell you the key to getting the new Black Lion weapons, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow host. He is a moderator over at MMO Champion. He is here to talk about the Path of Destruction, where it seems you are buried if you are not Condi. How true is it? Say hello to Jim. Sorry, I'm having a rough day.
That's okay, Dale. I guess I was kind of on the Condi train before because I've mostly been playing Burn Guardian lately, but I don't know.
Ooh,
so
ahead of the game.
Hi, everybody.
And he writes over on his blog, agegaming.wordpress.com, where he answers the age-old question, with the return of the God of Fire and a supposed shift in the meta to conditions, what if Arena is taking balance to a new level? Lore balance patches. Say hello to Age.
Lore balance. Wouldn't we all get fire then? Oh god, that would actually be terrible for PvP.
I mean, last experience we all got Vuln, so there we go. We're all getting fire confirmed.
You get burning, and you get burning.
Yeah.
Everybody burns.
Oh, talking about fire, and there's a Trump joke in there, but we're not going to touch it. You can see his stuff over on Twitch and YouTube at MMO Inks. He has been taking chance on ecto gambling this week, but how did he do? He is our Canadian Bacon of Guild Wars 2. Say hello to Inks.
Not good. Very bad. Very bad. To the point where most people would just stop playing the game altogether, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, not good. I wish I would have recorded it because it would have made a great video of reasons why you should never ecto gamble. Yeah, I wish, and it's funny because I was about halfway through and I'm like, I should have recorded all this, and then I just kept going to make it worse, and yeah, of course.
You're like, I'm already in the hole. Let's keep going. Well, let's talk about the patch notes, which we'll eventually talk about the balance patch portion of it. But first, some stuff that they tweaked. Legendary armor apparently cannot be salvaged anymore, which I didn't even know that was an option. I don't know why you would try that. I just
I want to see the face on the guy who did that the first time.
Yeah.
For science.
Oh.
I'm sure that like customer service probably gave it back to him or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry.
They reply back, bull crap.
Oh, man.
You get one. No. Also, apparently with legendary armor, Asuran toes covered in combat and non-combat for light and medium. So apparently they were worried about losing a toe.
Gotta watch those toes.
Yeah. Also fixed clipping with charred tails on medium, light clipping to the ground with back pieces on light armor, female humans and female Savari. So I remember everyone was talking about the char thing.
Right.
So that's good that that's been addressed.
Actually the shield, the back piece thing is actually much better now, and it doesn't. I was talking to some people on Twitter who have the legendary armor, and they said the clipping really isn't that bad, if noticeable at all, on some of them. So a fantastic change on that one. And then the charred tail is sort of met with mixed reactions. I kind of like the approach they took there, where they just they split it so that the tail is just exposed. Some people don't really love that design way of doing it, but I don't know. I think it's a pretty decent compromise. It's basically the same thing that they did with light. Instead of having the full back lobster tail, they split it. And they did the same thing with medium.
Yeah. I thought that's what they were going for the first time. It's just that they screwed it up a little bit, so they just fixed it.
Yeah, well, it's been addressed. Hopefully you like the new change to it. I mean, the alternative wasn't, that great. It was kind of just popping through there. But also, they reduced the distance between the left shoulder piece and the player model on medium. Holy crap, man, some eagle eye people looking at. I mean, granted, you worked hard for that legendary armor. I can probably understand, but Wow.
I noticed it slightly on a Sura Heavy. I didn't notice it on the medium, but so that's
Well, we were talking about the medium. The left shoulder piece is the one with the
Skull.
wyvern head or skull or what have you. So it kind of jutted out a lot further than a lot of other pauldrons in the game.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, the left side was like the armor plating part, so that was actually a little far from it. So it's glad it's a little closer. I don't know because that might actually reduce the bulkiness for me. I have to double check, but I don't know. We'll see.
Also, which is weird. This next one we talked about, I think, last week or was it last week when the armor came out, or was it before that? It's all running together.
2 weeks.
Before? Okay. Fixed an issue with darker dyes being harder to see on heavy armor. I know a lot of people are bringing that up with everything but heavy, so it's kind of interesting that they went that with heavy armor.
With heavy, I know I saw a stream where a person was dyeing their heavy armor to just see different looks, and if you put dark dyes on it, it kind of looks a little hard to see the details of the armor. So it's kind of good that I actually do that. I think with some light dyes as well, but
Well, it sounds like that they've addressed. I don't know about all, but it sounds like they addressed quite a few of the legendary armor issues that people had.
Yeah. And they'll continue to do that over time. So they have a feedback thread on the forums. So just place your concerns there if you have any.
Cool. Also, this is a nice ease into the balance thing, because this is probably something that didn't help with some of the builds out there. So basically, they have nerfed some foods out there, particularly the ones that are like you can do damage while moving foods. And some of the ones listed are bowl of seaweed salad, winterberry seaweed salad, swiftly scrambled eggs, asparagus and sage salad, like a whole list of them.
Delicious.
It basically seems like they cut them in half, right, percentage. So why is this such a horrible thing to nerf, the food by half?
well, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I'll talk about the good thing. The primary strategy, from what I understand, to keep the damage bonus uptime was just side strafe back and forth. You wiggle. Yeah.
Wiggle. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's and to be honest, I had no idea. I was constantly moving in combat anyway. There were points in time where in raiding it was like guy stack, and I was just like wiggle, and I wasn't even doing it for a food buff, but I can understand why they did it when they said in the patch notes that it was for a game health issue, and there are points in time where you don't want to move, so you're losing the damage bonus from your food. So that's the good thing, is they're kind of getting rid of the. Honestly, I kind of wish they would have just replaced the bonus with something else rather than just flat out nerfing it. For example, there is in League of Legends, there are 2 items that you can buy that while you move and do use abilities and auto attack, it builds up a charge. Once you hit 100% on a charge, your next attack deals a burst of damage, and then you have to build it up again. Now, I don't think necessarily we have the same ability to have the same kind of build-up mechanic as League does, but I do think food like this could have done something, or just, you build up a charge and then you get a short window of a buff for something.
Yeah. I think they could do that because, they have different boss mechanics that, they have the number ramping up to 100 and then it'll do something to you. Like on Karn, if you get like 100 stacks, you're like immobilized pretty much, but without the effects. So I think they could do something like that. That'd be very interesting.
I would rather. I see. I don't know. I guess I understand why they did it. Some people would disagree on how terrible the wiggle or not was. Not the biggest fan of the wiggle, so for me, positive. I think that they sort of see. I feel like they over nerf it though, right? 50%. Because now you have a food that is basically worthless. Where will you use this? If you want to maintain maximum uptime on this, you're still going to wiggle, but now you do 50% less.
Or you gain 50% less.
I don't. Well, yeah, but I don't know. I think a better change would have been something like if this is really about health of the wiggle, let's say. I think it's better than, and I don't even know if they can do this because I don't know how their game engine works, but give a short window of duration to the movement. You know what I mean? 1 second, 2 seconds, something like that, so that you have to do it every, and I don't know what the window on the old one was, but give it a window of, you need to move every 5 seconds, otherwise you lose the food buff of the damage or something. Yeah. That way you don't need to constantly wiggle. You still need to move, but you don't need to constantly do it. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know if 5 seconds is good or 10 seconds is good or whatever the case is. But I feel like that would have been a better way to balance it rather than just nerf it by 50%. The flip side of this, of course, is that the power food got hammered down, but they didn't touch the Condi side of it. Which creates a big problem of, power is now even weaker than it has been before without any of the balance changes to power or Condi. You just have food that will push Condi into a much better place, which is exactly what's happening. And in some cases, Condi was already in a pretty good place to begin with. Now you push it even further ahead on, how much damage you're doing, which is a very important part of encounters, fights, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that because there hasn't been a lot of, a lot of builds, at least for raiding, has been transitioning into more Condi builds just because they're a lot stronger. And yeah, you're right. The nerf to this food in particular, which was meta for pretty much all top tier players, is kind of just gone, and now they have to supplement that with a different option, and they have to see if that, and those raiders optimize things, so they're going to see if the power next best thing is good enough, and if it isn't, they can just use like a Condi variant or come up with a different build, I guess. But yeah, stinks.
I mean, there's another approach that you can sort of take to this as well, and this is the theoretical approach that a lot of the changes being made, and I believe this to some extent, right? Not to the full extent, not every single change, obviously, but I think for some of the changes, you're looking at preparation for Sandstorm expansion, whatever you want to call it, Heart of Sand. Why are we so hooked on the heart aspect? Like that has anything to do with anything?
Hey, it could be spleen of sand.
We'll call it the sand expansion, whatever you want to call it. Vabi. We'll call it the Vabi expansion.
Should we call it Sandstorm for the meme value?
Sandstorm, right? Yeah, Darude.
Great. Keep saying all these things so I can put them in the tags for the show.
You're right. Yeah.
I also thought they should have called it wooden potatoes. No, I'm kidding.
But I just don't think, like, I think that food wise you're putting this huge nerf on power food, where the next best for most classes is sweet, what is it, sweet and spicy butternut curry
squash,
soup squash,
yeah.
whatever it's called. I got that name totally wrong, but that's like the next best power food for most classes. But there's a significant difference between those. And the Condi food stays as strong as it's ever been. And like the balance it's not balanced is basically what I'm trying to say. And like Age is saying, Condi is already generally better for raid fights because the length of the fight, right? The longer the fight goes on, Condi usually ends up winning out, generally speaking. Not always
Condi
true.
Mostly because it stays stable. Because you drop your Condi on the target and then you're good. So for me that's like the biggest
complaint of the balance, give or take. Class specifically, I think that Thief does too much. I was putting Ellie's into that group as well. I was like, Ellie's did too much damage as well, but then they went and nerfed Arcane Power. And, you know, I'm not an expert on all the different classes. You guys know that I have been trying for a long time to minimize the number of classes I play than the way I used to be. So, like, I understand
and
Ranger
NPCs
fairly
in the
well.
game.
I understand Revenant fairly well, give or take, you know. But some of the other classes, you know, I know the numbers they do, and I have a broad understanding of how the class works. But the little things I sort of miss out on. It's time for bosses to start cleansing conditions. How great would that be?
Oh,
or just be immune to conditions. Oh man.
Well, I guess that kind of launches us into the next bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of professions, so there's been some balance changes that have taken effect and have really changed some builds around. And I'll link.
Don't play PvP right now.
I'll link the patch notes if you want to follow along. They'll be in the description of the YouTube or in the description of the YouTube video. And basically, we're gonna just kind of go through each profession, pick out the things that we saw that and if there's stuff that you guys saw that you want us to talk about more, so just let us know. But yeah, first up, let's talk about the Elementalist. So what did you guys pick out of the Elementalist? And
they really hit support Ellie in PvP.
A bit, yeah. Well, mostly personal survivability. It's kind of 50-50 between personal survivability and utility. Obsidian Flesh has a shorter duration, and Gale Song, or Elemental Shielding, has a shorter duration. But then Rebound is buffed, and then Gale Song and Wash the Pain Away were nerfed. So kind of a wash for group support in PvP for Ellie, but a nerf to personal survivability, which also is impacted with the new PvP Sigils, which we'll get to later, but none of them are really good for Ellie.
Yeah, the thing is with Obsidian Flesh, it's kind of like that safety net where you're invulnerable, so you can get that res off, or you can get that stomp, or you can do that personal, like, oh crap, I need to like live for these few seconds to get like cooldowns back type of deal. So that's a little hit. So that one, like every second of that skill is kind of vital, at least from my experience. So shaving off 1 second is actually going to be impactful. Wash the Pain Away is also another skill, because I find it's one of the best Ellie healing skills, and increasing it to 5 seconds by 5 seconds is actually pretty important too, because it does give you that survivability as well. Rebound I'm actually pretty happy about because of the heal increase, because it kind of did feel not that great.
It did nothing.
Yeah, so now it'll do closer to 6K, I think. I have to run the numbers on that, but hopefully around 6K now for a decent survivability heal. So that's nice. Some buffs to main hand dagger I see, and I think I saw a tweet about arcane power.
The arcane power change is probably the most interesting. So arcane power originally is the arcane skill that makes your next 5 hits automatic crits. With an arcane trait, it would have given you bonus condis on those crits. Now it's your next 5 hits are crits. You gain 25 ferocity per stack that's there, and you also automatically apply a trait or a condition based on it, and you share it to 4 allies along with yourself. So that kind of exploded a little bit. I was seeing people talk about, running 5 elementalists in a subgroup, and then just having them all be Condi elementalists, and then just rotating their arcane power.
Oh,
Right.
That's pretty funny.
4 stacks. Okay. Oh, it's 4 stacks now. Okay.
Yeah. And Netcode does bring a point. They hit support Ellie, but they haven't given a really good option to play anything else, because I know there's Scepter Ellie and there's Staff Ellie, but
it's still just support.
Yeah, they need to give some sort of damage, and I think it's just because it takes time to cast things on staff, or it takes like good positioning to cast things on staff. That's kind of hard to play that in PvP. And for Scepter, it's kind of more of a bursty build, so you need to land that burst right away, at least from what I understand.
Yep.
And honestly, if I was going to play something else, it'd be Dagger something, but and in a power-based situation. But it's just hard to play that, at least for me right now. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Any other thoughts on Ellie? Do you guys want it to stay like this, or do you want it to shift back some? Or
I mean, it sounds like in PvP that it needs to open up more, needs to have, more viable builds.
Yeah.
I can't really speak about its viability in World vs. World. It's not a game mode I play a lot. PvE wise, I think it's at a pretty good spot.
Because you have Condi, multiple power builds. Yeah, PvE Ellie's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people in chat say that they're enjoying kind of the multiple builds that Ellie can now take that are viable.
Well, yeah, I haven't really touched PvP since the balance patch, but maybe there's something out there that I know about that. So I'm sorry for your experience, but maybe someone came up with something. I don't know. Never know what can happen in the next couple weeks. So.
Jim, did they take your summoned weapons build too? Welcome to the club, man.
I wish I could have one. I'm not gonna lie.
Ellie seems like it's in a pretty decent place from what I
think.
See.
Elementalist in general, it's kind of hard to knock
PvE.
them around.
Yeah.
In general, they always find something to do.
Yeah, they're viable everywhere. It's just that PvP, you're only allowed. The best viability is support. You can play other stuff, obviously, but if you want like guaranteed good,
it's kind of been that way for a long time. It's just that they were very good at support.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
Now they still only have support, but they're not as great as they used to be.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, well,
unfortunately, for some of these things, it feels like the balance is a bit one-sided. Like they address one area, but then neglect the other areas. Again, not a balance expert, but that just seems to be what the community is saying.
Yeah.
Whether how much validity there is to that or not,
Let's look at the engineer, which it seems like this didn't help the previous issue of what was it, turret farming? For some reason it.
Well, I mean, turret farming is a separate thing. This really was about power NG and not using the turrets the way that they were really intended to be. Like the point was, you would place the turret, and then you would overload it, I think, and then you would pop it because you want the tool belt skill, because that's where the damage was coming from. So turrets really weren't hanging around and doing a job. They weren't really, with the exception of maybe heal turret, it wasn't doing that. So they changed it so that you can use your tool belt skill anytime. The problem is that the turrets still don't get used because they're underpowered, and in some scenarios, when you place it down, it overloads right away, and you can only do it once, right? So instead of placing the turret and letting it do its job and overloading it at the skillful, opportune time, you now don't place it at all, and you wait for the opportune moment to place it so that you get it.
Problem solved. Have it overload when you use the tool belt skill.
I mean, I'm not an engineer main, but that's my takeaway from what happened with the turrets. Like they don't, you know, turrets have become a reactionary play tool rather than a
bunker down kind of thing.
Like a like a spirit or whatever. And
when
they are down, most of them don't provide enough for you to warrant use anyway in PvE anyway.
But any engineer mains in chat, just let me know if you think that would be a halfway decent idea, or in YouTube comments, because I think that I totally agree with Inks in that the overcharge is something that was really nice to have on the turrets. It was something tactical that was useful. I actually really enjoyed getting the hang of the healing turret overcharge detonate combo. That was really kind of fun. Oh my God, Arlie, please no. Although I guess that kind of fits considering the situation. But it's the overload was useful, and having it just kind of overload when you do it. I mean, what the rocket fire, the rocket turret fires a knockdown rocket, and the issue there is who are you going to fire that at? Is it who you're targeting? Is it a random enemy? If you're using action camera, do you actually have anybody targeted? So how does that work at this point? So it's not fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do. I mean, it's like when you place it down, it overcharges, and I guess it could have like an internal cooldown until it overcharges again, something like that. I don't know, but that makes it kind of hard to, I guess it's hard to time, because you want to know when it's overcharging so you can use it to your advantage, type of deal. So using it in, like, having it overcharge with the tool belt might be a nice solution, but that means they'd have to balance the tool belt skills recharge times in addition to the turret overcharge thing. I don't know, that would be an interesting combination to do, but yeah.
Yeah, Sure Dill is saying that overcharge was rarely used except in some niche situations. The tool belt skills are just more useful. So now you can just use the tool belt skill whenever you want, right? Doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance, I think, because you don't want the turrets to be too useful, because it's a passive skill, right? Do you want the passive skill to be super powerful? I don't know. Yeah.
The other thing that was actually really good, well, not for NGs, I guess, but protection injection, a skill is really good, and that because it pretty much, if you get stun locked, you get protection a lot of the time. It doesn't last for a long time, but you know it's still pretty good. But now they increased it from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, so NGs are a little bit less durable in that respect.
In PvE, I know that their damage is pretty much unaffected. They're about 32k-ish, give or take.
Yeah.
So in raids, as good as they've ever been. Useful too, because you generally want an NG because of the Condi buff that they provide. It ups the damage on the other Condi classes.
The turrets are technically counted as pets, right? So they take the lower damage from PvE AoE?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Huh?
But turrets, still problematic.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll find their area.
There's also speculation too about how this change somehow affects the expansion, whatever the elite spec is going to be. I've seen people speculating on whatever the new elite spec is. It somehow gets rid of the tool belt or interacts with the tool belt in a weird way, and so that's why they've made this change. I don't know how much truth there really is into that, but it's
that
sort
is
of
a
fun
good
to
point.
read into those.
Yeah, that's a good point, that this is probably leading up to whatever the expansion's going to be. It's kind of like what they did before Heart of Thorns, so this could be just the small incremental steps towards that. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with all these in general. But let us take now a look at the Guardian. So what has changed with the Guardian? And are we happy or sad about that?
Oh, hell yes.
If you play PvE, nothing has changed. That's pretty much it. Very little has changed.
The food makes them worse.
Well, outside of the profession of guardian, inside the little shield-shaped symbol that we've got going on here, nothing. Most of the patch notes are PvP patch notes. Save Yourself got buffed. I talked about it a while ago, that Save Yourself needed a short amount of resistance added to it, and now it has 1.5 seconds of resistance. So you don't instantaneously die when you use the shout, which is great.
That's great, yeah.
My particular issue is, I'm going to read the quote here from the blurb at the top. Quite a few signets have languished for the Guardian for some time, so we took this opportunity to give them a bit more oomph and rework some of their actives. The only problem is that 2 of those actives take 2 to 2.5 seconds to cast.
Right.
First off, Signet of Mercy, the one that increases your healing power, is a res signet. One, haha, Overwatch joke, Signet of Mercy, it reses people. But
Overwatch came
after, I know. Yeah. They're making jokes.
Anyway.
I'm traveling jokes here, man. I have never
It's
seen
a miss,
anyone
they knew
use,
about it.
I've never seen anybody use a res skill other than Search and Rescue. And the reason that people use Search and Rescue is because the pet does it for you. You don't have to target it. All of these other res skills you have to target.
How many people does it pick up, Signet of Mercy? Just one?
Just one.
That's
10. Party bus full.
Well, the problem is the only other skill that does multiples is the signet that elementalists have, and that's 3.
Yeah,
right.
And I think Necro has that too. Necro has that too.
But either way, it's still targeted. Plus, the wording on these is revive an ally. It only works on downed players, not defeated players.
But Search and Rescue only works on downed players.
Yeah.
But
But
if you're defeated, you're defeated, right?
Right, but I'm talking like revive a downed player.
Sure, the wording is wrong.
The wording
it's been like that since 2012, I think, though.
Exactly. Yeah, because nobody uses it, so why bother changing it?
I guess to a new player, it's kind of misleading, but
yeah. So it's one of those things where everything that they're talking about in PvP and WW changes, great. It makes Guardians a little less overbearing. I'm kind of annoyed that the PvE changes are signets. Signet of Courage, I feel. I love the flavor of the tome abilities, which is where Signet of Courage came from. It came from the Tome of Courage, and that was the 5 on the Tome of Courage, the full heal to 10 allies around you or whatever. It's amazing.
Was a long cast time.
Yeah, well, it was 3.25 seconds. It was the same thing. It was most of the duration of the tome, and now I kind of like the large AoE heal passive on the Signet, but again, we run into the issue we talk about a lot, that healing power scaling sucks, and the cast time is too long to make it worthwhile. Also, going back to the whole thing with Search and Rescue, it's instant because it's a shout. This is a 2-second cast time.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I will say the difference between those two skills is that Search and Rescue will bring a person to you, and you have to res them. With
no, your pet starts resing them.
Well, you res them, either you or the pet, whatever. But the thing is, with Signet of Mercy, you will pick up that person after 2 seconds. So I feel like the time frame in order to do those two things are kind of similar. It's just that they have different ways of doing it.
Except with Search and Rescue, you don't have to do anything after you hit it, because your pet will your pet reses them as though a player was resing them.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really great about Search and Rescue is the pool, because generally when somebody dies, they die in a bad spot, where they died because they were standing in something they shouldn't have been. So Search and Rescue then is even better because it pulls them out of the mess that they were in. Where if you just res them in that mess, they're probably going to die again in the same mess that they were in. If you get it off in time, right? It depends how bad a mess they're in.
Oh, and then there was a change to Hallowed Ground, along with the other thing that they said was a general change to all classes. Anything that grants pulsing stability now no longer grants pulsing stability. It's a large block of stability now. So Hallowed Ground for Guardians now gives you a whole bunch of stability, and it doesn't give boon duration increase anymore while you're in it. It gives pulsing retaliation, which I think is okay.
Epic, yeah. The skill that I actually, again, it depends how you look at it, is Wings of Resolve. So the base healing of this skill has been reduced by 24% in PvP only. That was really annoying to fight against, because it's either you have to time your interrupts properly and hope Aegis isn't up or they don't have a block up. Because the problem with that skill is Guardians have a plethora of blocks, and so when you actually whittle them down, they just the Wings of Resolve and they get it off, and then they pretty much almost reset themselves. So that was really annoying to deal with. So at least with the reduction in health, it makes it a little bit more bearable. So
yeah, Wings of Resolve was a lot of healing. Like it's kind of silly.
Yeah. But,
go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
Nothing to add.
I'm done with my rant on Guardian.
Well, let's take a look at the Mesmer. So it looks like in this update they wanted to roll out new attacks for more Phantasm skills, and we're looking at enhancements to power-based shatter builds, which they said have fallen out of favor recently. So has it brought back the power-based shatter builds?
Probably not.
I can't
say.
Yeah. For I know some people have been trying in World versus World. I've seen some power-based builds. I still think Condi will be a little bit better. I just have to see, because I'm not a Mesmer player, so I can't really tell you. But what I'm looking at looks good. I mean, they throw out some different things, like they throw out immobilize. They throw projectiles that boomerang off other people. So I think they're trying to promote power Phantasm builds, but if it'll work, I'm not sure.
I kind of like this continuing trend where they're adding the activated effects on the Phantasm summons, because I can't remember what other game I was playing, but pressing a button and then having to wait for it to do a thing, because you hit you have to hit your button, you go through the animation, the Phantasm gets summoned, it has to lock onto the target, and then it has to cast its animation. So the payoff for that skill is really 1 to 2 seconds after you hit it, after you finish casting it, as opposed to when you actually finish casting it. So I kind of like the setup for this, so it actually gives you more of an opportunity. Plus, it's not a dead skill, so to speak, where it's just you press this for setup. So I kind of like the idea that they're adding all of this to this thing.
So.
Condi Mesmer is pretty strong. It's very viable. It's in the same range as pretty much all the other Condi classes minus Thief.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty strong. It's pretty close anyway. It's not on par.
I thought it was like 25K, but
I'm pretty sure it's a little more than that.
Huh.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is only like 20, 25, 27. I thought it was a little stronger. I thought it was just under 30K, 28, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Maybe I'm a bit off on that. I know in PvP, people are telling me that Mesmer is really powerful right now. So.
Oh, okay. With like power or Condi? I just wanted to.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
I was just saying, Mesmer's fine, and someone said, not in PvP. So apparently in PvP, it's pretty strong.
Okay.
Cool.
That would require me to actually have a sinister cat, Deo. She's not sinister at all, ever.
That's what the villain would say.
Another thing that came up because they talk about Tides of Time, which is the shield wall from Chronos that stuns,
Right.
and then Well of Precognition. What's the elite? The elite Gravity Well.
Gravity Well.
Yeah. Basically, they were talking about how with the stability change I mentioned with Guardians is they also increased cast times for most stuns and dazes. Don't chew on my cable. Sorry. She's already done enough of that. So the Tides of Time, a lot of the other stuff that stuns, it has a slightly longer cast time, or like there's some stuff for the warrior later that we'll go over. But all in all, I can kind of see them trying to stretch out gameplay where it comes to stuns, so you actually have time to recognize that there's a stun incoming and either prepare to be stun locked and try and figure a way out, or give other people a chance to come assist you. So I'm totally okay with that.
Cool. Let's take a look at the Necromancer. Apparently, they want to look at Epidemic. Apparently, it was killing too fast in PvP and also their servers. On top of that, they wanted to readdress the Plague Elite since they felt it was lackluster. So,
like lands.
Yeah. So, have they achieved that?
Holy cow!
Can we talk about Plague Lands first? Because honestly, I think the design of the skill is amazing.
Yes.
So, Plague Lands.
After the bug fix.
So first, and it's still a corruption, though a lot of people think it should be a well now. But you create a 240 radius corrupted area at the Necromancer's location for 10 seconds. It does nothing for 1 second, and then for the next 9 seconds, every second it pulses a condition. Every time it pulses a condition, it applies all of the conditions it has already also applied. I think bleeding is the first one, so you get 9 stacks of bleeding out of this if you can keep someone in it.
Yeah.
And burning is at the end, because if burning was, somewhere in the middle there, that would be a crap ton of damage. But
yeah. So basically, I just wanted to clarify it. So basically, you lay it down. After 1 second, anyone who's standing in it gets bleeding. Next second, anyone who's standing in it still gets bleeding, and then next condition, which is poison. And then it continues like that until all the conditions are there. And if you can lock someone down in that spot, holy crap. So if you put that on a down body in PvP, they're not getting that person up unless they want to die. So or they have resistance. So that is a real, I think it is a very cool skill. It's a very strategically usable skill, and I really like it.
And honestly, Mithrin brings up that, it's not necessarily really that much like a well, other an AoE that you place on the ground. I don't think it should be a well, because I think it's too powerful to be a well, because well assumes that you can place it in a ranged way.
Right.
And that I think is way too strong.
Plague Lands gets placed at your feet, doesn't it?
Yep, just drops.
Yeah, so it's
not even that much
well.
cast time either.
It's actually more like a trap than anything, even though it's not a trap either. It's a corruption. It's totally separate.
So my question to you, Inks, is that a DPS increase for Necro when it comes to rating?
Yes. Yeah. It is, except I think Sylvan Hounds is better.
Okay.
DPS wise. I might be wrong on that. I'd have to check what people are testing. But I think Sylvan Hounds is slightly better if you're Sylvari. Otherwise it's good.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, believe it or not, Necro is right up there. It's right in range with all the others as far as Condi goes. It's in a pretty decent spot now after these changes. Power is still, let's just forget about power, but
well,
in PvE anyway.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think the next one, a few of you guys were talking about it previously. How about that epidemic change?
Yeah. People were so, I don't know. It was a bug where it was affecting, it was affecting you and it was affecting your allies, yeah. And you could get some, if you could survive it, you could get some insane numbers. Like I think Brazil was hitting 200k DPS or so on the gold.
Jeez.
Okay,
yeah, it was pretty hilarious. But more often than not, because people didn't realize what was happening, they were killing their allies with it.
So, what do you guys think of the new design for it? The arcing projectiles.
It's a projectile. That's the thing that kind of worries me. So you can essentially projectile block or destroy these now. I think. I don't know. It sounds like you can.
They're unblockable.
They're unblockable. But
I don't know. I don't know if that means they go through, like reflect, like block bubbles or what have you. I don't know if like summoned constructs, so to speak, from players will cause anything like that. But
if someone in chat knows if projectile destruction works on this, let me know. But otherwise, I think it's pretty good. You can't block it.
No, I didn't think so either.
But can you destroy them? Projectile
destruction. I would assume if you can't reflect them, it'll go straight through any projectile destroying.
Okay.
Because I think
in that case, I think it's pretty good then. I guess they tried. Okay, so in that case, they kept the same functionality as Epidemic, just in a different way. So in that case, it's actually pretty good, and the radius is 900 now, so that's pretty solid as well. So a 1200 range casting skill that has a radius of 900. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and QED brings up you can evade it, which is totally okay. I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, pretty good change, I think.
And to be honest, I totally have no problem with them making a change because they're trying to decrease load on their servers. Oh, yes, and you can't body block. The last patch on this run, right? The last hotfix on this run is if you've already been affected by Epidemic, it pierces you.
Yeah.
So you can't body block all of them for people.
Can't pull a bodyguard. Oh well. The last skill that I saw that was really an interesting change was Infusing Terror. That's the Reaper 3 skill. So when you're in Shroud, you can activate it to get pulsing stability, which I use a lot in order to get my other Reaper skills off. But now it doesn't pulse stability, but instead it grants you 3 stacks for 6 seconds. And they have an interesting activation now. So activation of the skill now reduces incoming physical and condition damage by 20% for its duration. This is actually really good for PvP players because it is really hard to survive as a Necro because you are the first person you should be getting focused down. So this actually gives them a little bit more survivability. And
because Necros don't have a lot to survive bursts and they don't have any get out cards. So
yeah, this is an interesting change, and you lose out on like the pulsing stability, which is actually very nice, but you do get a lot of you get a damage reduction. So it's very good. Yeah.
And then the blurb when Inks was like, yeah, power gets nothing. They basically reworked all of Axe.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make Power Necro a thing, and I appreciate that. I really do, because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to see these changes, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot more needs to be done. I think it's actually interesting because a lot of the times ArenaNet has you know, I like to make the joke that they balance with a hammer. They have this thing where they just take a hammer to something and smash it, or when they buff something, they just take like a 1-ton ball and add it to the scale, and then boom, it's fine. With Power Necro, it's been slight, right? It's been a little bit over time, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. You know what I mean? They haven't just turned the knob to 12 and just said, "Okay, have fun," you know.
And then turn it back down.
Yeah, and then turn it back down to 1. Yeah,
well,
no,
that's good
so
because it only
better.
goes to 11.
Yeah, it's getting much better. I feel like I wish they would buff more than just axe as far as power goes, but
yeah. Great sword. I kind of wish they'd have like a great sword trait where you can get some form of increased attack speed or quickness or something, because I know axe is themed. I know not axe. Greatsword. I know it's themed to be like a slow weapon, but it's too slow to be useful in like PvP environments or raiding. Actually, like I know some people play it for fun, like in fractals and stuff, but it's just not. It's you wouldn't take it over axe or dagger or something else.
right, yeah.
Power. So if you're playing it for fun,
you know, it's one of these things where it doesn't fit its initial concept. So either you need to forget about that initial concept and rework it to be whatever you want it to be now, or you need to make it fit better with that concept. And right now, neither is really kind of happening with it, which is a shame because it's the new weapon, right? It's people want to use the new weapon when it comes to your elite specialization. But for a lot of specializations, it's just not, you know, it's not possible.
Well, next up is the Ranger. Apparently, they want to preserve the idea of tactical play of quick draw, so they want to kind of deal with the burn duration from torch skills. And they said they also wanted to look at revisiting some of the older weapons for hopefully better synergy with the core weapon skill functions. So, did they?
Yeah.
The changes, they changed short bow trait, they changed sword trait, and they changed the axe trait. Axe, you now get the ferocity bonus regardless of the hand you're wielding the axe in. For sword was Strider's defense. It was destroy projectiles and a chance to destroy projectiles when you're doing a melee attack. They changed it so that when you evade, you get 3 seconds of quickness. And I can't remember what the cooldown on that is, but I'm going to assume there has to be a cooldown on that because there are a lot of evades in sword by itself.
Well, when you evade an attack, and so I would assume maybe around 7 seconds.
Yeah, 5 to 10 seconds. But still, 3 seconds of quickness on a relatively short demand. That's Mithrin's saying 10 seconds in.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, and that kind of really fits with the kind of jump around play that one-handed sword has on Ranger, and I like that. The short bow does a lot of really crazy things. So when they reworked short bow, they added a lot of flanking benefits, like you do crazy amounts of bleed if you're behind or beside a target with your auto attack. So the 2 was is the poison volley. Your poison duration is way longer if you're behind or beside with this trait. Like ridiculous. Like 12. I think I'm close to full Viper gear on my Ranger, and it's something like a 12-second bleed per arrow that hits the target. So if you're in point blank range, that's 5 projectiles. That's 5 stacks of poison for 12 seconds. It's nuts. The 2, which is the cripple, will now immobilize, and that's amazing. It's a pretty solid immobilize along with the cripple.
Good for CC.
Yeah, it's really good for CC.
Because you didn't need more immobilize.
The 3 is the evasive shot, the quick hop backwards plus swiftness. I don't think that actually got anything.
No.
I don't think that's affected by the trait at all. The 4 Can't remember what that is.
It's the
cripple shot?
The 4 is the cripple shot. I can't remember. No.
The 5th one? Or
the 5th one is the daze/stun. So the benefit, the trade
cripple, 5 is daze.
Daze. The daze shot, if you're behind or beside, will now apply an additional 10 stacks of vulnerability along with the stun.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't know how much. Oh, 3 is a little jump back. Yeah, I'm blanking on the 2 then, I think.
2 is poison volley.
1, 2. Oh yeah.
So 2 is poison volley.
3 is jump back. 4 is cripple. 5 is stun.
I was counting an extra ability in there for some reason, and I don't know why. But
Rangers
honestly,
get 6 abilities.
I'll say confirmed
yes.
elite spec for Rangers. They get 6 weapon skills.
But all in all, since I was playing Condi shortbow before this, I love the changes. It really solidifies the try and figure out where behind or beside the target is, which is kind of a pain in the butt whenever you're in open world and they light up like a Christmas tree.
It can be difficult. The certain raid bosses is a little bit difficult as well.
Well, I was talking to Kate. She's been doing Condi Ranger, and her problem is she's raiding on Cairn, and she's having a problem of what's the front, because you're looking at a Jade Golem and there's no indicator. At least with like Veil Guardian, he has that red and orange arrow, which is really visible.
Oh, Karn, however he says his name, he does have a front. It's just that he shifts.
Right.
Yeah.
He shifts.
But it's one of those things where he doesn't. Yeah, he wiggles. Lots of wiggling in this show today. It's one of those. It's kind of a pain in the butt because you're trying to figure out where the front is, and they're always like you've got targets that are doing this. So,
I mean, I don't know. I personally, I really don't overly concern myself on a boss like that of being in the right spot because he moves so much. You just take a DPS hit. Some people will say, no, that's wrong, but I don't, DPS is not so hardcore in raids that you need to worry about the couple of thousand you're going to lose.
It's just one of those things where it's like I kind of wish there was an easier way to tell, because they put the mechanic in there. I'd like to try and be able to optimize it, but it's kind of frustrating when there's no real tell for it. So I think that's really my only frustration with it. I know it's not necessary for me to be super hardcore about staying behind or beside the boss, but if the mechanic is there, I'd like to, play the little mini game with myself to try and optimize it better.
Of course, it's fun. Condi Rangers in PvE didn't actually change. They lost a little bit of damage due to duration, tiny bit. So they really didn't change in PvE. They're the same as they were, more or less.
PvP Druids lost a lot of. They got hit hard with support, and honestly, rightly so, because it was a little silly.
And Smoke Assault got nerfed, which is very nice because I don't know if you guys ever fought a Berserker Ranger, but if they get that skill off on you, you lose a lot of health. So
that was the F2 on Smoke Skills, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or was it? No, it's the Revenant blink around thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a crap ton of damage.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just happy about that.
Condi Ranger hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
For PvE anyway.
Speaking of Revenant, they said that they wanted to look at the core trait lines of Revenant, and they thought they were lacking in either synergy or uniqueness. So they really looked at the Invocation and Corruption lines and have given a lot of Condi love to those trait lines. And then they also said they wanted to look at the Malik's Legend and the Ventari Tablet Energy Expulsion for better support and stuff like that. So did they achieve it?
Inks, go.
Yeah, I mean, technically they did. I'm not really a big fan of Condi Revenant. which is a shame because now Condi Revenant is the is the class to play. Age always has been. They're going to be really strong in PvP, so that's a big plus because Revenants with the last 2 seasons or so really took a pretty hard hit. Not that it wasn't unwarranted, but again, they cut too deep 2 seasons ago, and it just permeated into the next season. So this season coming up, Condi Rev is probably going to be pretty strong, I think. It's in a pretty good place. PvE-wise, yeah, Condi Rev it's not going to be optimal, but it's certainly viable. And on particular bosses, it's really going to shine. For example, it really shines on Karn. We were talking earlier how on Matthias it's okay, but it's not as good as you would think because of his rain phase. You lose, unless you can get up in his face, it's really difficult, Condi Rev, to maintain your DPS during that phase. And then it depends how you do Slothosaur. A lot of people pull Slothosaur into the middle, so he moves, but not nearly as much as the old strat where you're just pulling him around constantly. So if you did the old strat, you probably would see DPS increase in there. But if you pull him to the center, which a lot of guilds now do, then it doesn't shine quite as much. But Condi Rev is doing, yeah, Jalus, Malix. Malix and Jalus is going to be the top DPS there. And it's going to do, on a moving boss like Karn, it's going to do about 32k DPS, give or take. On non-moving bosses, you're looking at about 29 to 30, give or take. So it just goes to show you how much Torment starts to ramp up on a moving boss, how important that is. There just isn't enough of them, really. There's a couple, but to me, it's going to be one of those situations where, like Necro used to fill, where Epidemic was really good on 1 or 2 bosses. Revenant's going to have like a similar situation where he's going to really outperform on a couple of bosses and be mediocre on the others. This does mean, though, that even in regular Condi form, he's still doing 5,000 more DPS than he did before they nerfed all of the power stuff. So he's still in a better situation regardless. And if you want to use Glint and Malix over Jalus, because the hammers are terrible in some situations, especially on something like Zera, then you're going to lose about 1 to 2k DPS there.
Yeah. I will say PvP will probably see Condi Rev again, for sure. They added a bunch of different ways to... They either reduced some cooldowns for applying conditions, or they added new ways to apply conditions, which is pretty nice. And I have to look at the traits just to see what changed there, but or if there's different synergies there. But it looks like you can play Condi Rev again and get some decent results.
Well, one of the other things that, and I haven't had a chance to look at my Rev since the patch drop, but the concept of they wanted to try and increase synergy with other trait lines, because we've talked about it before. That is a huge problem for the Revenant.
Yeah, big time.
Because it's one of those things where you take Invocation, you take Herald, and then you take the class you want to play for your trait lines. So you take Ventari if you're playing a healer, you take Shiro, you take Destruction. Was it not Retribution? Salvation, Devastation, or Corruption are the three trait lines, and it's healing, power, or Condi. Take your pick. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think it's something Deo had a huge rant about, is that it's an incomplete class because there is no synergy with a lot of the damaging setups, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah, well, now you're going to take Corruption, Invocation, and
Herald.
Well, Herald if you want Herald. But if you're not using Glint, then you're not going to take Herald. You're going to
probably take the Jalus line.
Retribution.
Yeah.
No. You're going to take Invocation, Corruption, and Devastation. Oh, that is Jalus, isn't it?
No, Devastation is Shiro. Retribution is Jalus.
Oh, you said Invocate. You said Invocation.
Yeah, no, Devastation. Devastation, Invocation, and Corruption.
I think Invocation is like the Rev line itself. So
Yeah,
Right.
it's like
General.
the Gennaro line.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Arcane for LEs.
But
or
Devastation will
Divine, yeah.
give you Assassin's Presence, which isn't as strong as it used to be with all the Condi classes running around. But it is technically a bit of a buff. But
okay.
if you take Glint, then you're going to cut Devastation for Herald. Is basically it. And that's where some of that DPS loss comes into play there.
But it sounds like if base Revenant is actually useful now, that's at least better than the
Technically
Confession
base
used to
Revenant
be.
is optimal, just like Condi Rev is optimal for that plain old core Revenant is technically optimal now. Which again hints heavily at changes being made for the expansion, where you don't want people not to ever give up Glint, right? You want Glint to be a viable option, but you don't want it to be the only choice that you want, right? Revenant's going to need more love before the expansion or when the expansion hits, though, because otherwise Glint is going to sort of start falling further behind, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Let us take a look at the Thief. So they talked about the Daredevil staff function, how it's a good AoE weapon, but they were worried about dealing with large groups through the core Thief itself. So, and they also wanted to look at the unload for pistols, and also gave a little bit of poison love to the Deadly Arts line. So,
A little
were
bit.
they able to? What do you mean? Were they able to do it, Jim?
Don't ask me. Ask Age, because he's been waiting for this segment. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I'll start off with like the nerf. So Pulmonary Impact, that nerf was coming. Like every thief knew it. It was just something you have to accept. Channeled Vigor was actually a nerf I did not expect. They nerfed it. They nerfed the endurance tick from 20 to 15. So that hits you a little hard. So you get 1.5 dodges back instead of 2, which kind of sucks. But I got to roll with the punches. Endurance Thief was a surprising nerf because they reduced the endurance gain from 50 to 25. So you basically lose 1 dodge when you steal. So you get half a dodge. Those are the nerfs that I feel like were very significant in terms of PvP Thief. They did nerf Staff Thief a little bit with Vault and Bound, which is something that's okay. A lot of people are really happy with Unload, or been trying out Unload because it refunds 2 initiative if all the attacks hit. That's nice and all. I still think it's not going to be the greatest thing to take. Shortbow did get buffed a lot. I think it's actually pretty solid as like a ranged weapon now. At least it's secondary to pistol because pistol is better for a ranged weapon, but it's really good. Choking Gas is actually pretty strong now. It does double the damage and it dazes slightly, so you can interrupt things maybe if people are standing in it. Potent Poison is the biggest thing for me here. Because Potent Poison, in addition to its previous effect, this trait now increases the number of stacks of poison applied by other Deadly Art traits. So there are 2 other traits in there are 3 Deadly Art traits that apply poison. So there's one when you steal. There's one on Panic Strike, which is when a person's at 50%. They take a stack of poison as well as Mobilize. And there's a trait that on chance on dagger attacks it applies poison. So essentially, if I steal, I can apply 7 stacks at least of poison.
Which means you choking gas and then steal into it.
You don't even need to do Choker Gas. You could legitimately just steal and do dagger attacks.
Well, I meant that, you choking gas, swap, steal into it, and then, they can't do anything on the point because you're dazing them every second.
This is true. So I think so. The changes to short bow was really good. It was very interesting for choking gas. But potent poison is the real game changer here because one, I don't know if Arena actually thought about this, but double dagger is just going to be a lot more annoying to deal with because it's going to be constant poison. And I know they reduced the dodges, but it's still a lot of damage. I guess you can't run acrobatics and get the benefits of deadly arts. So you have to run deadly arts, trickery, and daredevil in order to get the full benefits of the damage, but you lose out on survivability. So that might be the trade-off people have to make, which does make a person the thief more vulnerable. For raiding, I don't know how that'll do. I know people have been trying double pistol and double dagger is something I'm gonna have to test. But the thing I've been trying, and I think it's going to be a decent build, is Condi dagger pistol because it plays the same way as power DP, but with Condi, and you're always going to be applying poison no matter what. As long as you are hitting them, you're going to apply poison. And I killed people in World vs. World last night with it, and it was glorious, and I was laughing, and I was having the greatest time of my life, and I feel so bad for people right now because, yeah, I'm probably going to run it if it is viable. So
That's a lot of poison. I think Boots and for World of Enders from the Boots Bad Builds series, his Toxic Thief, it was a 14-second video. And he just logged into it. I don't even think he changed anything with the build. He hit it and he attacked the Jotun Chieftain in the Heart of the Mists. And in about 2 seconds of combat, he hit like 27 stacks of poison. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I haven't even tried Venoms either. Just like,
so
it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, it's gonna be just a little silly. I kind of dig the choking gas change. I had no idea that was a Guild Wars 1 setup. I think that's really cool. The perma stun daze thing that's rolling in the field like that. I do like how you can't be affected more than once a second. So that keeps you from layering multiple fields or having multiple thieves layer multiple fields on a point. So that keeps things from being too overbearing, just like Dragon Hunters with their dazes and traps previously. But I think that many stacks of poison is going to be a problem.
Yeah. And to all of you hating in chat, I knew it was coming. I was preparing for this ever since I saw these changes. I say bring it.
Thief is overpowered and needs to be nerfed in PvE. In PvP, World vs. World, obviously I don't know how crazy it is there. From what I've heard, there's some crazy synergies going on there that people are not loving. Somebody was talking last night in one of the guilds I belong to about just getting one-shot by thieves or something. I don't think it's quite a one-shot, but it's ridiculous apparently.
Yeah.
And human thieves are even worse. So enjoy it while it lasts, I guess, because
I will. I know I'm going to get nerfed. There's no way this is going to last forever, so I'm just going to enjoy it while I can. I only found out about Avatar of Melandru like just now when Inks talked about it. So, and I don't have a chance to ever play Thief and Raids, sadly, because I have to fill the voids that are left.
Well, now you can. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, Age, we need somebody to do lots of damage. You'll say, no problem. I'll get on my human thief. I'm good to go.
There you go. Yeah. For someone who's asking about perma speed, you just need dash dodge, and you just dodge pretty much. That's you can keep up swiftness like that.
Yeah, that's been like that since Daredevil, since Heart of Thorns released. I thought,
believe it or not, more recently, Thieves was one of the harder classes for me to delete just because I love Staff Thief so much. That's not even the really strong spec that's running around right now, but I just love Staff Thief so much that I didn't want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. But expect nerfs to Thief next patch, or maybe in 2
Hot
weeks
fixed in.
when people realize the mistake that they made.
I mean, it might last 2 or 3 months. Like, I hope not, but
Like I said, there's going to be new lore-based balance patches. Episode 6, they're killing off all the thieves.
It's bad.
And they're just going to be like, well, you got to re-roll, I'm sorry. So, ha!
Thieves are toxic. Getting banned.
I'll be a rare species.
I think they'll be fine.
Did you guys go over the pistol change?
Just barely, but you can talk about it if you want.
You get 2 initiative back if all 8 shots hit, which I ask myself, what am I going to do with 2 initiative on my elementalist when I reflect all 8 shots back at the thief?
That's one of the reasons why I don't want to run pistol, because there's just, I've killed people like that too, and
and it's funny because you get the might stacks from it. So
you stun them and then you unload.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
if you run Bassy, I guess it's fine.
I can use magnetic shield when I'm stunned.
Oh, well, there you go, I guess.
This is like a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! He just saw your trap card.
Trap card for a trap card. But I like that gives you what, like 4 unloads in a row, I think.
Something like that.
You can do 3 if you have trickery. So that should put you at 4, which gives you caps you on might if you just run all of that.
If you hit everything.
Yeah, but in PvE, how are you not going to hit everything?
This is why people are trying to raid, yeah.
They should just bring Ricochet back and everything will be fine.
I miss Ricochet.
I want to try pistol on Demos because groups I've been running with have like the range. They have a range option, but I wouldn't bring Thief because it just didn't feel as strong. But now with this change, it might be not that bad. I don't know, but we shall see.
Cool. Let us take a look, last but not least, the Warrior. So it looks like in this update, they're kind of bringing it into balance within itself. Like they said they were going to tone down some of the overperforming stuff and tune up some of the underperforming stuff, which looks like the overperforming stuff was a lot of the Berserk skills, whereas looks like they gave a lot of love to the Axe Mastery and the Axe skills themselves. So were they able to achieve that?
Axe in general. I think Axe is going to be the next legendary they bring out because they're going nuts on Axe.
No, they have Astrolaria. Sorry,
we already have 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but that's going to be the great sword of this one. There's going to be 2 axes that turn into another axe.
Yeah, there's going to be like.
You imagine people would lose their minds.
Yeah,
but I love what they did with Axe. I'm really enjoying all of the stuff they're doing with Axe. Endure pain in PvP.
That change was very interesting. That change is very interesting.
Half cooldown, half duration. It makes it more tactical. I mean, it lets you use it. Technically, your uptime, if you want to consider something like that, is definitely something that, you know, it stays the same because it's a 50% reduction in both the cooldown and the duration. So uptime is the same, but you're not going to use it on cooldown. But I think that's the problem that was happening is literally a warrior would run into a fight and then just blow all of their stances, and they weren't using Endure Pain tactically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that was when, like, Endure Pain was the last thing I would use. I'd use my blocks, I'd use my dodges. If I couldn't dodge and if I couldn't block, then I'd use Endure Pain when I was at like 30% health. But I'm seeing, like, I'd see warriors run into combat, into like a team fight in mid, and 0, 0, 0, 0, and it's just like, why did you use Endure Pain so? You used it so early. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I do like, yeah, like you said, it's less survivability in the instance that you're fighting in, just because it's 4-2, but it gives you a lot more flexibility in how you use it. So
right, because you can go Endure Pain. It lets either my support, the support Ellie top me off, or lets me use my heal skill or something. And you know, the earlier you use it, the sooner you can use it again. I know, but that's the thing, is they're trying to make it more tactical, which is what it's supposed to be. And I totally agree with that. It's one of those things where I almost feel like stances could use a mechanic where they increase their duration based on staying in combat or something to a maximum, like, because you're still in a fight. Obviously, the caps of that would have to be wonky because, you know, being able to extend endure pain is kind of really strong. But
yeah, when it comes to using endure pain, I think it just depends on the fight that you're in. Like, if I'm in a team fight, I will save it to the last seconds. Personally, if I'm in a 1 versus 1, I'll probably pop it a little earlier, just so like Mithrin said, I can get the cooldown back a little faster, so you know I could rotate in skills and things like that. So it really depends how you use it and the situation you're in. But can I talk about Axe Mastery right there? That gives you 300 bonus ferocity as long as you have 1 axe. Can I tell you how good that is?
you don't have to tell me. I run axe with my warrior.
300 bonus ferocity.
And that's
for just
across the
one
board.
axe.
That's not like just in one of the modes. That's all 3. So.
That is amazing. I saw Shin run Axe Shield last night, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And all the extra skills that, like, they buffed: Eviscerate, Decapitate, Double Chop, Triple Chop, Cyclone Axes. They really buffed Axe throughout. So hopefully it sees a lot more love. So
it's nice to see Axe getting some love. I know. I don't think it was last season. I think it was the season before that in PvP. Brazil was playing a lot of Axe Shield Warrior. Was having like a lot of success with it.
Oh, nice. And yeah, I guess
I think it was Axe Shield. But anyway.
There's Tavok.
And then we would talk about Headbutt and Arc Divider. Those got nerfed. Arc Divider is a really strong skill, and increasing the casting time is kind of a bit warranted because it's a good skill. It's really long range.
What was the cast on it before? It was really short. It was a very responsive. That's the great sword, the Berserker Greatsword burst, right?
Pretty much. And Skull Grinder got nerfed as well. That's the mace burst.
That needed to happen.
Yeah, that was really good.
That needed to happen.
And Headbutt was really good, and they nerfed that a little bit.
Nerf buff.
Actually, they nerfed it a lot. So the casting times increase, which makes it a little harder to land. But they did increase the distance traveled, which is kind of nice.
The number of times I have hit Headbutt and just come that short of landing it. That because somebody moved. Actually, it happened once because a ranger hit point blank shot on them and knocked them out of my range. And
okay, so half seconds arc, now 3/4, and PvE in raids and messed with power PS. Yeah, that's true. Headbutt will kind of do that, because. And Arc Divider too, yeah. It kind of nerfs power PS a bit, but you're there pretty much for might anyway. So
I'm not seeing it. It
won't knock it out, but still Condi PS is probably better still because they didn't do anything to that. Ratings.
What? Sorry, responding to somebody. I mean, I don't play Warriors, so unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of feedback.
Well, I think power PS got a bit hit, but you're there for might anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
I think
it's
Condi
not
got
that
hit
much.
a little bit as well, but
I don't know. I don't see anything, but you never know.
It's kind of ridiculous reading through. Like there's so much.
There's a lot.
Berserker nerf, Berserker nerf, Berserker nerf.
Yeah.
I don't think, I might be wrong on this. I apologize if I am. I don't think that in PvE for raids and fractals and stuff, I don't think Warrior was that affected, and Axe doesn't really help it at all. Axe is more of maybe a world versus world or PvP thing where it's more effective. In raiding and in fractals, it's not really. It's not enough. It's not really a thing. But mostly because you need to provide phalanx strength, right? And so, yeah.
One of the things that I forgot is powerful synergy is now all finishers, not just leap finishers. That is huge.
Wait, all
combos are now double. You now trigger twice.
I did see on Reddit someone running some sort of raid build that required like combo fields or combo finishers of some sort, and it actually did reasonable damage. But the problem with that is that, you know, there's a plethora of AoEs that happen in a raid, so it may not be as viable. But that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, it's. And well, that, and you know, with the axe changes, axe 5 in any kind of field, all of your projectiles from the world finisher are now doubled.
Huh. That could be fun to try.
Like, I'm honestly thinking of trying to, like, I'm thinking about dropping Berserker from the axe build that I'm trying to mess with. Just because Berserker it just feels tacked on for me right now, but you know, messing around with stuff. And since now they're apparently trying to bring up all the base classes to be worthwhile, that might be something that can be done here. But honestly, I don't see anything wrong or unnecessary or unwarranted for any of the warrior changes.
Yeah,
I don't see anything that I think.
I think a lot of the nerfs that they got were pretty much expected. To Headbutt and the other one.
Yeah.
Name escapes me. You guys were just talking about it. But yeah, I don't know. I think the changes were pretty good. I think people in raids will still play Condi Warrior most of the time. There's a couple exceptions, like Keep Construct is the exception. You want to play Power there. But yeah, so.
Okay, well, that was it for the professions balance. I mean, overall, yay, nay. I mean,
meh.
I have no problems with anything that was going on. There were things I wish they would touch, but that can happen later. I don't have a problem with anything that happened.
It's like, all right, well, Elementalist, it's kind of like this because of the support nerfs, but nothing given. Engineer, I can't really say. I mean, I kind of like the changes, but because it allows you to use 2 skills. Guardian deserved it. Anyway.
Whoa! Coming from the thief.
He's right, though.
Coming from the thief.
I feel
I think you brought more in line. Sorry, I won't say you deserved it. I think you brought more in line. You're still viable in PvP, so that's good. Mesmer, I'm going to be interested to see what things come out of there, if power builds will be viable, at least in PvP. Necro, wow, Plague Lands, they're nice. Ranger, it's okay. Some nerfs were warranted to the healing specs in PvP, but you get some nice quality of life stuff. Revenant, Condi revs back pretty much. Thief, I'm so sorry to everyone in advance. Warrior, I think just got balanced just right, actually. So that's it.
Did we talk about the tether change?
No.
I don't think we did. All skills that tether will now also apply revealed, which prominently, I think, applies to Guardian F1 active, the Spear of Justice. So 6 seconds of reveal if you get hit by that, and then base Necro Shroud 4. Is it 4 or 5? It's 5. Sorry, thank you. 5. 6 seconds of reveal from that, and then I think Druids have it on one of their glyphs.
Yeah,
they have a tether.
And the reason
the elite one.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because technically, you should be able to tell where I am if you tether onto me, because you're just gonna have one tether going to like one end, and it's attached to nothing. So that's pretty much where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm okay with it. It's not a big deal.
I think the balance changes. I think the balance changes overall were okay. This is from a PvE perspective only. I'm ignoring PvP and World vs. World. Apologies, but I just am not comfortable enough to really make an assessment there. For PvE, the changes were okay. I think that the changes to power builds in general is short-sighted. I really think that they should have adjusted the Condi food. I just don't understand why they didn't. To me, that's like like I said at the beginning. To me, that's the biggest like misstep for the whole thing. For me, is missing such an obvious balance there. The other classes, you know, Thief is overpowered. And not even just by a little bit, it's far beyond the other classes. Racial skills.
Really curious about that build. I'm sorry.
Racial skills, I think, are problematic. It's not that I don't think that racial skills should be viable. I think they should be viable. I think that they should be good so that people will use them. But I don't think that they should be the optimal choice per race. There's an argument to be made there that that's a 2012 insight and overview of the game, that ArenaNet didn't want you to pick certain races to play certain classes, like in WoW, or I think ESO even has some racial bonuses, and there's lots of RPGs out there that do that, right? And ArenaNet wanted you to not do that. If you want to play a Char because you like Char. Don't play a Char because it gives you XYZ. Or don't play an Asura because it gives you this, right? They wanted you to play the race that you wanted to play because it looks cool. Fashion Wars, you know? Or that you like the lore of it, or whatever the case is. And I do think it's important that those racial skills exist and that you can use them and that they're viable in certain situations. But I don't think they should be the most optimal skill.
I agree. Yeah.
So you have things like Avatar Melandru, you nerf the Seed Turret, but now the Sylvan Pup for some of those Condi classes, not all of them, but for some of the Condi classes is now like the best option for you to take. And in some cases, they're very minor buffs, and in other cases, like Avatar Melandru, you're talking like 2 to 3K. That's kind of significant when the range is anywhere from 28 to 32, give or take, for most Condi classes. You have thieves alone pushing themselves way beyond even their highest cap, right? And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, yeah. Otherwise, you know, there's always going to be changes that are questionable that you don't like or whatever. But overall, I think pretty decent. I am concerned about the power side of the game, but you'd have to nerf the Condi food to see where that brings things and then sort of go from there. And I've only been focusing, unfortunately, my time on looking at the Condi numbers because that is the clear winner currently. But when the community and QT and Nike and all those other guys who do that testing and provide videos and content on that come out, they'll have the power side of things charted, and they'll have the Condi side so that you can see the difference there. And then kind of go from there, I guess. But
yeah.
My thing is, I want them to balance more than once every 2 to 3 months. What they did with Ellie recently, which semi-warranted, semi-not warranted because of the video that was put out. But the video was a little bit misleading, and so it led people to believe things that weren't entirely true about Arcane Ellie. There's a double use at the very beginning to push the burst damage way up, which wouldn't normally exist. And it's on a large hitbox, which most people still don't seem to understand for some reason. But anyway, besides that, that was like a quick change. It was a quick turnaround. And I would love to see more of those quick turnarounds rather than having to wait 3 months for them to decide what they want to do with Avatar Melandru, or decide what they want to do with something that is like meta breaking in PvP, for example, when the season starts. The good news for PvP is that this will shake the season up, I think. It's not going to be the same as last season, right? So maybe that's a good positive. If your favorite class got nerfed into the ground, not a great positive, obviously, for you. But I think it's going to shake the meta up enough to make it more interesting. So I sort of see that as a positive for that.
Which we'll definitely talk about the meta after a bit, but let us talk about, you were kind of hitting on it, PvP and the new PvP sigils that have landed. We'll kind of just do these all in one lump sum just for the sake of time. But yeah, if you guys have particular ones that you want us to talk about, definitely, you know, say something. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on the new PvP sigils?
My biggest complaint is the fact that they removed a lot of the AoE effects on sigils. There is one that does AoE cripple, and that's it. And I'm not a huge fan. There's a lot less choice now, because these are all, I think these are completely separate from PvE sigils. I don't even think these are available in PvE. These are all solely just a purely PvP available sigil set.
There are some that are available, but some are exclusive.
And we lost Sigil of Water, we lost Hydromancy, we lost a lot of AoE support, which when we talked about Elementalists way earlier, I lamented that I have nothing to, I used energy and I used a lot of weapon swap stuff because every time I attunement swap, it's a weapon swap. So I'm not a fan. I don't like this new sigil set. It's too limiting.
It really does suck for support LA, I just realized, because I don't see anything, at least right off the bat, I don't really see anything. Like, Sigil of Cleansing might have been nice, but the cooldown's 9 seconds, so it's not really beneficial when you could just, I've maybe some of the on-hit stuff, but that's about it. Also, by the way, if you had a sigil in PvP that you bought and it's not there anymore, you get refunded. So just a heads up.
I'm surprised that they didn't make us pay for a lot of these. It's funny because I got that money back and I was like, oh, I better go see what I need to buy, right? And I didn't have to buy anything. There's a whole bunch of runes that I just never bought, but I didn't have to buy any sigils. I was like, sweet. I can just save that money now.
Or just go gamble it.
Well, that's what I did, but that's not important.
I will say though that Sigil of Water, I don't know why they took that out, especially because that was
the AoE heal.
I'm pretty sure that was I think that was a nice skill for Elementalists, just to provide that little support. That's kind of disappointing they got rid of. I honestly have not gone through this list versus like all the professions I want to play this season and what I want to use, but off the top of my head, I guess I can look at Sigil of Purging. If I'm playing Thief, that might be kind of nice. Revocation looks good too. Every 10 seconds I can remove. Maybe not. It's a lot of like looking at things and seeing. But on interrupts, Sigil of Absorption might be a pain in the ass for some people if I use that.
Well, that was something I think Ozzy was mentioning in chat earlier, is that Thieves with Sigil of Absorption, with how low a cooldown that is, 3 seconds, you're running pistol in your offhand. You have, what, headshot?
Yeah, so you'll interrupt at least one skill. So you'll take one boon.
Love the headshot.
Some of the passives, I guess, like the increased Condi duration ones are okay.
They are all damaging. There are no defensive passive ones.
I would say Sigil of Savagery might something that a warrior might take if they're running like a lot of interrupts there. Sigil of Enhancements, 0.5 extra damage per boon on yourself. I don't know. If it was 1%, it'd be a lot better, but because in Sigil of Enhancement, I'd run on Engineer or Mesmer that, you know, professions that can pump out a lot of boons, things like that. Sigil of Compounding might be good for like Necros, something like that. It really just comes down to testing these. But yeah.
My opinion is that I don't like them. So that's me. I don't like change. I fear it.
Wait, what's the? There was one here. Sigil of Escape. That's good versus people who don't have a lot of immobile breaking stuff, especially when you're fighting rangers, because they just magically immobilize you when you least expect it. I don't know. They just have so much access to it. Sigil of Intelligence still exists. That's nice. Sigil of Doom still exists. That's good too. Does it do the same thing? After your next attack, after you swap this weapon while in combat, inflicts poison for 5 seconds. So that's pretty much the same. And Sigil Intelligence, yeah, Sigil Intelligence is the same as well. So, yeah.
Some interesting ones in there. They don't mean a whole lot to me until the season starts, unfortunately. But
yeah, I'll just have to test things. I'm probably gonna test some builds anyway, so I'll see what I like and what I don't like.
Well, I mean, talking about builds and all that stuff, and all these, you know, previous patch notes and balance stuff, people are starting to worry, and apparently on Reddit, someone made a post about, is ArenaNet pushing a Condi Meta? So their main concern is basically a Condi-based meta, which makes Condi builds more favorable than power builds, and they use Warrior and Ranger as an example, and they're also worried about build diversity and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Are they now?
Now, Kate brought it up earlier in chat, and it's one of those things where, like, we had the straight Zerker meta for how long? Like,
yes,
we had
for a very long time. Well,
right.
Since
pretty much since the condition changes.
Well,
actually.
that's not true. Yeah, the condition changes.
Yeah, the launch of Heart of Thorns when they increased Condi stacks, because that was the big deal. Is
right, and then it's been meta in fractals more or less ever. Well, that's not entirely true, but the LFG thinks it's been meta in fractals ever since.
Well, regardless of what the player base may think, because oftentimes the player base can be ridiculously wrong, or at least seem to be ridiculously wrong or off base. But it's one of those things where I don't think they're really forcing a Condi meta, but it's one of those things where I get the feeling that they don't think power will be that hard to fix, because that's what they've been basically pushing from the start of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I understand the sentiment that you know, oh, we had Berserker for so long, and you know, too bad now it's Condi. But you know, it's not healthy for the game to be one or the other, right? It's healthier for the game,
right, when
to be a mixture, or
right,
or to prepare yourself oftentimes for, and some people won't like this. I'm not a big fan of this personally, but to provide niche situations where particular things shine. You have a boss where Condi Rev is amazing. You have a boss where Necro is amazing. You have a boss where Power Ellie is better than whatever, right? And they seem to do that quite a bit as far as rating goes.
Yeah.
Viper is pricey because we can't sell the gear, because everything in Heart of Thorns is account bound.
Yeah, that's something I was going to bring up, that Zerker is cheaper to make than any the new Condi stuff, like Trailblazer or Viper.
Well, and because... Anyway, but Yeah, I don't know. I would much rather see a healthier balance. You're never going to achieve a true balance, right? So one is always going to kind of edge out over the other. But I think that if you can balance the game in such a way where they become a lot more viable, like both of them are viable, but one is slightly more optimal, then you're living in a healthier environment, I think. And I just don't think that that's currently true. But
one of the things that I look at is that, we just had 2 pretty sizable buffs to power options and a pistol power option for Thief. I think it's one of those things where we were talking earlier about viable versus optimal, whereas viable is, I've talked before about, you have to hit X amount of DPS among your entire raid in order to kill the boss before the enrage timer. People are talking about, your optimal has to be up, like you have to play optimal, and optimal is up here, you have to play optimal. I get that the more DPS you do, the faster the fight goes, the less chance you have to screw up. Totally logical. But
Sure.
You don't need to be up there, you just need to make sure you follow the mechanics.
true.
And if you can do that, you're fine. And if everybody's on board with you doing that, you're fine. I feel like for some reason there's this perception that the pug meta is the whole meta. Like what people are expecting you to do in LFG and will kick you out of groups if you're not doing it, that is the entirety of the game. Like that is all of balance. Bless you.
Sorry. Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely true what you're saying. I think, and it's taken me, for whatever reason, a really long time to come to this revelation about Guild Wars 2. And interestingly enough, it came from ESO. So I was watching the video the other day about ESO, about solo experience in the new expansion that they're coming out with, right? And the video went over, like, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and if you do all of these things, then you basically don't need other people. You can solo experience pretty much everything.
But why would you do that in an MMO?
That's because okay, so this is the revelation that I came to about Guild Wars. That's the mindset that I have, Age. My mindset has always been, it's an MMO. Play with other people. You should be forced to play with other people. But the truth of the matter is, Guild Wars, getting back to Guild Wars 2, the truth of the matter is a lot of people don't do that necessarily a lot of the time. They would, for some people, they would rather play most of the content solo if they can. And they only group up either by coincidence because you're in the open world and everybody is loosely grouped because of the way that the game works, or because they need to accomplish a particular goal, a fractal or something like that. And because of Guild Wars 2's nature of the stop and play, right? The no gear treadmill and the way that progression works in the game, it actually fosters a community of people who don't have a ton of free time, but can hop in and do things at their own pace. And when people do that at their own pace, they're less likely, I think, to be guilded as much or care about guilded activities as much, and therefore pug far more often than in other games.
Yeah.
So because they do that, they're now forced upon this pug life. And the pug life, unfortunately, the pug life, not the thug life, but the pug life. The pug life, unfortunately, the pug life, unfortunately, instills this mindset of over-optimization when the game doesn't even call for that, like Jim is saying. Raid bosses don't have this hard counter that you have to do 30k DPS if you want to win. No, people are doing, if you look at the raid DPS of most people, they're not even coming close to those numbers, and yet they still kill bosses. So yes, there are some hard numbers you need to hit, but it's not nearly as bad as pugs would have you believe it to be.
Yeah, if anyone tries to raid and tries to hit QT numbers, you might be able to if you're good enough, but on average, the average player will hit like 10k less than QT numbers. But it's not like that's terrible. I mean, you could still do the raids, obviously.
Ultimately, I'm confused by their argument of basically the Condi meta is killing build diversity. Any meta kills kills build diversity. Like, I mean, like what Kay was saying earlier, she spent 2 years being told Zerker. Like, when was the Zerker meta? It killed build diversity. You couldn't run conditions. Going back to what everybody else was saying, it's not. Yeah. You can still run it, but yeah.
To be fair, there was a literal mechanical limitation in the game to you running conditions. So
yeah, and then they opened it up. I would honestly, and Mithrin brought up earlier, it's like there should be, honestly, in a perfect world, there would be 3 ways to play Guild Wars 2. You would have a power build, a condition build, and a third build that would be either like healer, support, boons, something like that, something along those lines. So, and they would all be good to play to some degree, but we sadly don't live in that world. But ideally, that would be the best thing.
In a perfect world, they'll charge you through the nose for a shoe. That's a perfect world joke.
Well, and what Kitten Theory is saying, that's what I'm trying to explain, is that it's players excluding themselves and others from content. That's what pugs do, right? Pugs want you to meet some theoretical threshold of theirs that they think you have to meet. Like fractal tier 4s. You have to have 1 Condi Druid and 4 Necros. That's not even optimal, first of all, but they believe that it is because it was at one point. And they're so reluctant to change that if you don't play that way, good luck finding a group. Not that you can't, you can, because I run Revenant every single day and do whatever the hell I want. I mean, I run random nonsense and nobody even cares. But if you want to run with the top groups, then
I really enjoy how passionate Inks is getting about this, that his camera is slowly tilting.
Oh, that's because my desk is screwed up. But
Inks is
he's starting to flip
Inks is literally tilted.
And there's going to be certain restrictions, especially like if they're looking to do speedrun. And I'm not against pugs doing that. They're going to do whatever they want to do.
Right.
But
yeah.
I think players sort of take it a little too personally sometimes. And there is some frustration. I seen some guy post the other day where he was doing, I think Nightmare CM or something, and he got kicked at the last boss because the group was a bunch of jerks. It's going to happen, unfortunately, when you pug. But
yeah, like I had something similar happen, and because the LFG system was a little more fluid in World of Warcraft, there was a healer who refused to heal somebody who was standing in something that he shouldn't have been standing in. And it was one of those things where it's like, I'm doing DPS, heal me through it. And the healer was like, I'm not going to waste time healing you through stupid. Step 3 feet to the right. And then the 3 DPS that were in the group kicked him because the vote system allowed 3 people because they were the majority of the party. And
it's sad, but it happens,
Yeah.
And hey, if I get kicked for what I would think is no good reason, then sure, I would be upset. But I'm not gonna post about it on Reddit or something. I mean, it's not gonna solve anything.
As a healer or a tank in World of Warcraft, you get 9 instant Qs anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But coming back to Guild Wars 2, there are so many ways to do whatever it is that you're doing in this game. I play a Guardian Burn build. Is it optimal? Probably not. Am I running the optimal traits and setup for it? Probably not. Do I care? I have fun playing it.
There's a big question about viability versus optimization.
Right.
And I'll be honest, someone said something about CM Samarog. I don't know what the DPS requirement on that is. But for most bosses, the DPS requirement is not 20k, let's say. If you're doing 20k, which is well below the average, especially nowadays, you're going to kill the boss easily. It's not.
Also, that comment was about challenge mode, where a stricter requirement or a specialized composition for your raid is totally acceptable. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. I'll do that.
That's even in raiding specifically, when they said we're doing raiding, they said specifically, we know that we're going to design fights that are not good for certain professions. And
right. But people don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but I remember the devs saying, we're okay with that because we're designing this for a niche group anyway. And with as easy as
Really
they make
that.
it...
Hmm.
What's that?
People really hate that. Like,
That they call
process.
rating a niche group, and that they design fights that might exclude certain classes.
Yep.
Which, you know, and that, if you can find a way around the limitation, more power to you. You clearly are really good at playing the game.
Or you play warrior.
Where you
Sure.
play 10 Tempests and just heal through everything and ignore the encounter mostly. And
Yeah.
But the issue I have is that this... I even lost my train of thought because that the whole 10 Tempest thing just kind of totally ruined my entire thought process. But they make it so easy to level up additional characters. I have 9 characters. My Revenant, the day I made him, he was level 80. 5 minutes after... Okay, not 5 minutes because you have to click through all those stupid tomes because there's no consume all.
2 hours later.
You're really... 15 minutes after I made my Revenant. Honestly, the longest portion of me creating my Revenant and getting to 80 was creating the Revenant. And I think I had Chris to do that because
You got to get the right hairstyle.
Well, I let her basically create. Anytime there's a character creator, I usually let her do it because otherwise most of my characters will look the same. But you could have another class. You can learn another class. I mean, Age, you're talking about you fill for your raid.
I can play everything except engineer.
He
I can play everything except engineer. I just don't. I don't want to press 40 buttons.
So do I think, going back to the actual topic at hand here, because we're running into a 2-hour show.
I forgot the topic, yeah.
The Condi Meta, sure, we might be trending towards Condi right now. I don't think ArenaNet is really pushing for it. Their development right now is trending towards Condi, but I don't think it's any inherent plan that they're trying to push Condi right now.
Right,
do I think that it's entirely possible that they think there are flaws inherent in power DPS? Yeah. So they're trying to skip them, or they're basically trying to force flaws so that they can get a better idea of where to fix things. So they're working on Condi because Condi has received very little love over the lifespan of the game. So we won't know if they're forcing a Condi meta until Condi has been king like Zerker was king for the longest time.
Yeah.
And that's my final thoughts on that.
In most of the content, it really doesn't matter that much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's only and it's only for those players who care about that sort of thing. Like I said before, I really think that if they would have balanced the foods, we'd have a much clearer picture as to how things are supposed to look. And people who crunch those numbers and know the exact percentage differences, which I don't know off the top of my head, will know exactly how far away power to Condi is. It's not as skewed probably as we're making it sound. I'm not trying to, hopefully we haven't tried to make it sound like they're miles apart. They're not miles apart, but they're not, they're not close enough.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the Condi meta and the concerns and the build diversity problem that's not a problem?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Let us talk about Gemstore and Black Lion Chests. So always thank you to Dolphy.net. Check out Dolphy.net so you can spend your gems more wisely or save your time on using your ticket scraps or something like that. So check out Dolphy.net. First up, let's look at Black Lion Chest stuff. So these are the keepsake weapon skins that were just added this week, and they are one Black Lion ticket scrap, or sorry, not scrap, one Black Lion ticket. And you can kind of see them here, full set apart from underwater. Ooh. Of course. Very key.
The daggers are cute.
Yeah, it's very key themed.
I want to play Kingdom Hearts right now.
Yeah, this just in ArenaNet now working on Kingdom Hearts 3.
It doesn't look anything like the Keyblade. People disappoint me.
Well, no, it's not like a Keyblade. It's just that reminds you of Kingdom Hearts.
I never played Kingdom Hearts, so I have no idea. That's just what everybody in the guild chat was saying.
I don't
This is
think
the
it was.
first time I had seen the set, actually. That's an okay set.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get any of them, mostly because I spent all of my tickets on the Beast Slayer sets.
Well, I tried to get the set, but it didn't work out.
Well, that's because you're terrible with money, apparently.
I like
it requires a lot of money to get. I mean, it's got time to actually earn money. I just need to.
I'm actually kind of disappointed that some of the locks actually have, like, the longbow and shortbow, and there is the key in it or what?
Not in the staff. Staff is cool.
Okay, like the shield looked like it had the key like inserted into the lock, and I kind of wish it was like the focus and it was just dangling elsewhere. Like, I'm not a huge.
I don't really like the torch, but I like the fire.
For me, weirdly,
Never
I'm not a
works,
fan.
man.
Like, I'll never get this set in any form. I don't think. I mean, it looks nice,
I like the
but
axe.
it's just not for me.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that are pretty cool looking. The dagger's cool. The axe is cool. Swords are cool.
Swords are cool. I
Swords
wish the
are very
dagger. I want the dagger, the key part, to be on the opposite side than it is now.
The focus looks like a giant
Briefcase.
lockbox purse. Yeah.
It's just
Whatever.
for me, it's a weird shade of green. Like it's almost like
Greenish metal.
Tarnished
Yeah, it's
copper, but it's too shiny for that.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of like the Statue of Liberty, which is that copper?
Copper.
Yeah, it's basically when it's against like seawater, like it's just.
Yep, it's oxidized copper.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't the right shade for oxidized copper. They should have done that. They should have made it oxidized copper. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Shade's a bit off. But anyway, don't like the pistol, don't like the rifle.
The pistols and
Don't like
rifles
the
get a bad
bows.
rap.
Not a big fan of the scepter. It's okay. It's got the key on it, which is kind of neat. The shield's okay, but you're right. There's a key in the shield. I don't like that. Get your key out of my shield.
If it was like dangling elsewhere, that would be cool because everything else.
There was keys at the bottom of the shield dangling, but then there was one in the lock.
Yeah, but no.
You shield bash someone that you lose your key. You can't even use your shield anymore. It's locked off. It's like no.
That's right. That's right. Sword is cool.
Then you find out that you actually have to lock the shield onto your arm, so you could never unequip the shield now.
And I like the torch fire, but I don't like the torch.
Okay.
And I don't like the warhorn. But anyway.
Something else in the Black Lion chests. First up is the where is it? The Hounds of Balthazar mail carrier, and you can kind of see it here displayed. Basically, it's now the way to get these is since they changed up the chest now, it's one of the ones where it's a chance to get this in the 4th slot that they've implemented. So I think they said it's an uncommon drop. Also the helm that we're going to show off next. But I've heard some people, of course, that are, 100 keys in, 200 keys in, some are getting it at 5.
Guys, have you not learned? This is RNG from Elementals. No. This is RNG. You will either get it in 5 chests or 150.
I got really lucky this time around with the uncommon plus drops, but yeah, I didn't see my first mail carriage about 40 keys in, but I've seen the helmet. I had to go back and actually edit that video, but I think I seen a helmet within 25 to 30 chests.
And you can't sell them, right?
No, so just a tip. If you do chests, which is big RNG gambling, not as bad as Ectos, although maybe it is worse than Ectos. But it is big RNG, right? If you're trying to get these things, and it's going to cost you more than likely, unless you get really lucky, which some people do. Make sure that you unlock the helmet in your wardrobe right away, and make sure that you unlock the mail carrier right away, so that when you get duplicates, you get 2 Black Lion keys in place of it. Otherwise, you'll have to contact support, and it's the whole thing.
I'll say I'm kind of the opposite of what Inks had. Granted, I did 1 key run this week, and then I switched converted gold to gems for 5. And so I had 6 total. I think on the last one I got or maybe the second to last one I got the mail carrier. I wanted the helmet. I didn't get the helmet yet. I'm not gonna support them with actual money on this because I'm not a fan of this implementation, and we can definitely talk about that after we show off the next one. But first off, yeah, I think Jim and Age, what are your thoughts on the mail carrier?
I got the mail carrier on my 6th key. I like it. I'm using it on my Guardian.
It's cool. I like my Snow Owl. I like RPing Harry Potter. So
you like Hedwig? Got it.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think I said it on my stream. I think I had to get it just for the sheer joke. Since when my dogs bark, we call it the Hounds of Balthazar. So I was like, I feel like I have to get
Honestly,
it.
I right-clicked on it to see if I could send it to you. I tried to send it to you, and then I'm like, oh no, it's account bound.
Yeah, granted, I haven't used it on a character yet. I'm maybe on one of my characters that it might fit, but so far, to no avail. But let's talk about the other uncommon drop that's found in the Black Lion chests. It's the Sworn Zacian Helm. So you can see it here. I really like it because even the particle effects, like the is it almost like almost like a misty fire type thing coming off like the eyes or whatever. That's dyeable as well. So
dog.
Yeah. And Dolphy does show it on different characters.
I don't know whether she shows Char or not. I think she does.
Yeah.
The collar on Char is not good.
Really?
It's blown out of proportion and it's bent a bit. It's weird.
Yeah, here it is.
The video will play and you'll see it. It's. I mean, what can they do? The Char have,
odd physiology. Yeah. Honestly, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. It stretches a little bit.
Yeah, it's just weird. I
kind of like to come down on like yeah. I'd actually prefer it on Char if it was like it actually covered their snout and everything.
It does. Well, it goes over it.
Yeah, it goes over it. Not like
if it was more like face plating rather than a helmet on a Char.
There you go. Yeah.
Like interestingly enough, the Asura head isn't blown out of proportion on this one. You know how sometimes helmets are just gigantic on them, but actually looks.
Oh.
It actually doesn't look that ridiculous on them.
See, there were opportunities here. There could have been horn holes for the Char, and it could have been more like a face plating so that the eyes of the Hound were the actual eye sockets for the Char. For the Asura, their ears could have come out of the actual ears of the helm. There's a lot of artistic opportunity here.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Char horns get clipped, which doesn't make any sense to me. But then again, if it doesn't, it ruins the helmet, right? Especially this particular helmet. I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Carnifex, I have no opinion on if Char or any other bestial race should be a playable character. Ugh.
It's a pretty cool helmet. I think there's a lot less outrage this time around for a couple of reasons. Number one of the drops is a mail carrier. Mail carriers never went over super big in the community. Like they were never that popular. Number two, neither one of these are Guild Wars 1 direct callbacks, like skins that existed in Guild Wars 1, like the Elemental Sword or the Storm Bow on the Gemstore, for example. So I think there's a lot less outrage this time around, even though the RNG problem persists throughout.
Yeah, and I've seen some people, like, of course, like I said, I'm not going to try to support it with actual money. I'll transfer gold to gems because I don't want to support that idea. And I know a lot of people have tried to defend it by saying, Overwatch does it, and like other games, like But I think Overwatch has one key example. There is a continuous way to get, you know, a loot box, or basically in this case it would be a Black Lion key. We no longer have that except for once a week. Now, I'm not saying bring back, you know, running it as many times as you can in, like, you know, an hour. Like, you know, there's people that were doing, like, what, 10-minute runs or whatever. I'm not saying bring that back, but, you know, maybe something like use the spirit shards or something. You can, you know, so many spirit shards, well, you can buy a Black Lion key or something, but something in-game that you can get at a consistent rate.
Hey, Dare, you could play PvP and do reward tracks for keys.
You could, yeah.
Putting that out there.
Takes you kind of longer, but I don't even think it's that. I think the chests themselves just need to, again, we talked about this before. I think the chests themselves just need to be overhauled again. Tomes of Knowledge, there's very few people I ever talked to who are happy about Tomes of Knowledge in the chest.
I'm happy I only got 1 out of the 6 boxes I opened.
I got 16 out of 101, but that's actually pretty good considering, like the drop rate wise.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but I think like the longer the game goes on, the more people get permanent contracts, which is still a small portion of the player base. But the more that happens, the more you're going to turn players off from the loot that's in the boxes. You need to have, I think, in the future, some sort of trade system so that you can trade those things for, I don't know, revive orbs or transmutation charges or something. Right, because some of that loot eventually becomes worthless to the player. And since you get 2 common drops every single time, it means that the majority of your loot is going to be worth almost nothing to you. And that doesn't, when you're spending real money, that doesn't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When I buy a pack of Magic cards, I get a rare. It might be a crappy 25-cent rare, but I also get uncommons in there. I also get commons. Like the pack itself, the expected value is generally a loss. But when you're opening en masse, the expected value goes up, and you usually break fairly close to even. Not on the latest set because it's terrible, but on the previous sets. But Black Lion chests, even when you open a lot of them, you still lose out.
Yeah, you need
99.99% of the time.
I feel, yeah, because in Black Desert Online, there's a thing called fail stacking. So that's when you're crafting like stronger weapons. So if you fail in an increase, you'll get a fail stack, and that improves your chances of actually succeeding.
So it's like a weighted RNG, and I'm assuming once you succeed, that resets.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That's
so
actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that might be something that could work for Black Lion chest to some degree.
That was something.
Trove has stuff like that too. It's Karma Bar. So.
Yeah, there was a YouTuber named Riker who I follow for a lot of Diablo 3 stuff, was talking to one of the developers for Diablo 2, who moved on from Blizzard to another company, and he moved on to another similar game. And in order to unlock new characters, I think it's a Marvel game. In order to unlock characters, you have to find certain items. And they could either give you, okay, you have to find X number, and they give you a guaranteed one of those things every end of the run, but you need like 300. And that was, or you can just luck out and get the character. So It's one of those things where you can have the RNG to do it, but giving players a steady progression setup is something that makes something far more palatable in comparison to anything else.
I think you're talking about Marvel Heroes. What is it now? Is it still 2016 since it's 2017? I know they changed it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, they had that system. And kind of like what Ice was saying, like, think keys are a big moneymaker. Oh, I've no doubt. But going with like what people said, Overwatch, their boxes that you can buy outright are big money makers for them. I mean, that's basically what it's still going as, and you still can get them at a consistent rate. And I do want to say thank you, Mithrin. I had a feeling that those PvP tracks weren't repeatable, but Age is like, oh, because he hasn't done them. I'm thinking of the people, Age, just like a thief, only thinking of themselves. You're like, oh, just think about yourself. I'm thinking of the people.
This close.
You weren't. If I wouldn't have said it on the show, I would have said it after show. But
there's another game too that I play called Fallout Shelter that makes all of its money from chests like that. But again, you can do chests. You can do quests in the game where you get those chests. And the things that you get out of the chest, even if you get something you don't want, let's say, it's generally you can either sell it for money, gold in the game, credits, whatever, auto caps, I think, or you can break it down into materials used to make other things. Like, there's a variety of systems out there that just do RNG boxes better than the way ArenaNet does them. The system itself is better than I think it originally was, but it still needs improvements, pretty large ones at that.
Yeah. Let's look at some of let's look at the Gemstore stuff. New that's coming in is the Mercenary Backpack for 400 gems. 400 gems, and it is a back piece, so it replaces your backpack skin. I mean, I've heard a lot of people raving over it. For me personally, I think it's a nice looking backpack. But I have backpacks already.
Right. I do like the nice touch of the fact that it's got the bunch of different weapons. Like there's a Lion Guard weapon, there's a Shiver Peaks weapon. It's really well designed. But
it's a nice adventurer's backpack.
I might get that for my warrior. I'm not sure.
I actually like it a lot. If I played a character that wasn't into being a light bulb, this would have a lot more appeal for me. That's just a personal thing, right? There's like that the key weapon set we just seen. There's going to be players out there who like the more elegant weapons like that, and I think this backpack sort of falls into those types of category, where it's less about particle effects and more about stylization. And I think that this backpack sort of fits into that. I really like it a lot. If I was into that, if I had characters that sort of fit that theme, then I would really like this, I think. Yeah. Or be more appealing to me, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I think that's my problem. Like, I'm not knocking it. It looks great. I think it's great if your character is one, like, nomad adventurer type person, but I usually say about a lot of stuff. I have my look set. I don't see this one switching anything out so far. But
I have a character who could probably use it. So
there you go.
Might get it.
Pick up for 400 gems. We have some returning stuff. We have the Phoenix Glider, which we talked about this in the past. This was that one that when they showed the Foley work on Guild Chat, that it was only there for 1 day, I think it was, or it didn't even go through the whole week. Like I think they took it away like the Friday, like right before that Friday episode.
Yeah,
and we were like, please bring it back. Yeah, so it's 500 gems, but it has great sound effects. I mean, go check out the Dolphy video. I'll definitely have the link in.
A litany of comments during the Guild Chat for that day of just like, where is this? You guys just made it. Why is it not still in the Gemstore? They lost so much money that day. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this glider actually a lot.
Yeah, and the sound effects to it are amazing. Like if you can watch the Guild Chat where they had the Foley work for it, pretty awesome. But
just add fire.
Clearly, Balthazar made the glider.
There you go. Next up, we have the Vibrant Dye Kit, which is, of course, 125 for 1, 5 for 500, or 25 for 2,500 gems. And remember, those 6 are the special dyes that are in there that you can't get otherwise in game, except for trading on the trading post. But it's not guaranteed. That's always the important thing to throw out there. They're not guaranteed to be in there. So it's once again,
I feel like we need like a soundboard with that spiel from you. So you don't have to say it all the time, because it's every time they update
I just know
the
that
Gemstore
one
with
time we
only
don't,
thing.
the person's gonna be like, I bought it, I didn't get one. I'm like, I feel bad.
Yeah. Again, this is another thing that I think they would sell more of them if it wasn't designed the way it is with the RNG. And I don't mind RNG on a series of new dies, but what I don't want to do is get a die kit where I open it up and I get a 3 silver die for my however much it costs me in gems. That's what I don't want. And that's what happens more often than not.
Yep. It's not fun.
So if you want a shot at those, I think we always say like best bet is to probably take, look at the trading post. But if you're feeling lucky, maybe you just got a legendary to drop, or not legendary, a precursor to drop, and you just want to keep that luck riding, go for it. But also ending soon is the Spectral Glider and the Glidertron, which are 500 gems apiece. Which I don't know. Do any of you have those, or the Spectral Glider or the
Spectral might be good for Necro.
Spectral is the one that was alongside the Black Lion weapon set, right, with the bones.
Yes.
Yeah, it has like that carcass looking thing on.
Yeah.
I don't think I have either.
That's actually really well articulated and animated. So it's a cool looking glider, and the Glidertron looks pretty awesome too. I'm probably not going to get either of them. So.
Yeah, and I like the Glidertron one, like just not for the voicing, but for like, isn't that the one with like the 4 kind of jet
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, and I think you can dye like the smoke that's, or the steam or whatever that's shooting down below it. But yeah, I think overall, definitely pick those up if you're interested in them. They are gliders, so they're not back pieces or anything like that. But that looks like that is it for today. So Jim, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. I can also be found here on twitch.tv/TalkingSkrit on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Zero to Hero PvP night. Hopefully, by this upcoming Wednesday, the people in Unranked will have calmed down a bit, and I can actually play decent games rather than just have people fighting all across the map. So, hope to see you there.
Ooh, and Age, where can they find you?
Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, Bad Age Night Road. I'm actually going to do a 16-hour stream tomorrow, starting in the evening, because I reached 600 plus followers, and that'll lead into Monday, because Monday here we have off. So, yeah.
How can we bump that up to 24? Come on. What do we have to do on the stream? Come on.
You owe us a 24-hour stream, Age.
I owe you.
You promised.
Yeah.
We have it on tape.
Reading that. That's their fault.
Well, that is another thing to note. He's doing a 16-hour live stream. That probably means Guild Wars 2 is going to be down. So everybody prepare for that.
Yeah.
and be ready to play me.
Oh my gosh.
And Inks, where can they find you?
You guys can find me Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at MMO Inks. I should have some videos rolling out next week. I've had some really bad problems with the game this week. Just wouldn't load. I was getting kicked from login this morning. I don't know what is going on. And it's not just all on my end, but I'm hoping that the game stabilizes and I can get some of that stuff out there. I just haven't been able to get footage of the things that I need to. So, how many bags did I get in Lake Doric? Oops. Well, my inventory's full.
That much.
Like a stack and a half.
Nice.
All hail the NG farm, which is still not that nerf.
Ugh.
What have you been doing that? Have you just been idling that the whole time?
Yeah.
Is that how we're gonna make do lengths of time instead of actual time? It was about a stack and a half. The show today.
I gotta make my money back.
The show was about a stack and a half.
Well, you can find me at simply_down on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you're just popping in, we do put this up on our YouTube channel. Just search Talking Skritt. Usually the first one that comes up. That goes up Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're watching on YouTube, try to make it out towards for the live show. We continue with an after show afterwards. But yeah, I would like to thank everybody for coming out, and also thank you, Serene Virus, Sig Fast Strong, That Chevron, and the JD Shadow for hosting. And oh yeah, we have our Discord community thing. We have the link on the Twitch page, and also if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. So we'll see everybody next time. Bye.